Hey Jamie, it's been a while. So, what are you up to?
Hey, yeah, it has been a while. I'm sorry, things have been pretty busy, but it was great seeing you at Mactor. And we are prepping now for our next spawning. So we're predicting our next spawn is going to be, I think, probably the week of the 26th of November. Um, so that's what we're gearing up for at the moment. And I'm going to walk you through our little corridor behind the scenes and just talk through a couple of the experiments we've got planned as part of that spawn and some of the prep work that we're doing and has been going on actually for the last couple of months. So I'm going to flip the camera around. You don't want to be seeing me. All of our research systems are blacked out at the moment because we induce the corals to spawn during the day, yeah? And we just started putting in the secondary blackout tent, so that's what this big frame is here. So this whole area will be completely enclosed and blacked out, so we have a double door system so that we can get in and out and work with the corals without creating any light pollution, basically. And I'll talk about what we're doing in this system for this year, for this year's spawn, because the spawning is a little way off. I can open this up and it won't cause any issues to the corals particularly. But you can see the lights are off. It's dark in there at the moment.
Is that Marvin Gaye music I hear? Is that,
that will start coming in later.
oh, okay.
So what we got here is a bunch of Acropora hyacinthus. These individuals here are from Singapore. And then these individuals here are from Australia. And what we've done is we've moved the spawning time for the Singapore corals, which normally spawn in April, and we've moved them to coincide with the Australia spawn. And so what we're interested in looking at this year is creating hybrids between Singapore and Australia of hyacinthus. So what we're calling intergeographical hybrids. Not only that, if I open up this side as well. So we've got a whole bunch of Meliopora down here as well. What we know is we can create true hybrids between the hyacinthus and the Meliopora, and that works both ways. So we can take sperm from the hyacinthus and fertilize eggs from Meliopora and vice versa. So last year we tested the fertilization success, doing all the different crosses that were permeable. So doing Singapore with a Singapore cross to create just a Singapore genotype, and Australia hyacinthus cross, Meliopora cross, and then we did all the various combinations. So taking eggs from the Australia Meliopora and fertilizing them with either an Australia hyacinthus sperm or a Singapore hyacinthus sperm. And then we've recorded all the fertilization success rates. The challenge last year is we rushed it because settlement was due to happen on Christmas Day. And so we ended up pushing it a bit too quickly and we killed everything. You know, you live and learn. That's part of science, right? So what that told us last year is, one, we can get the fertilization success. We obviously need to put more effort into the settlement. So our goal for this year is we want to create all of the pairwise crosses between these different combinations. Then we're going to settle them and grow the spat out, and then we have a little rack system here. So we have 3 tiers on the rack, and they're all linked to the same system. So this is where we do quite a lot of the experimental analysis. So our goal is we'll settle all of those combinations. We will then take fragments from the parents, and then they will go into each of these three tanks in the rack. And then what we're going to do in the bottom rack is we'll create maximum Australia temperature. And then the middle rack will be maximum Singapore temperature. And then the top rack, we're going to go even higher than Singapore. So what we know, I always do this in Celsius, but Australia hits about 29.3 as a max. Singapore, we can go up to about 31.5 degrees Celsius. And then the above Singapore will probably take up to about 32 and a half degrees. And what we're hoping to then see is that in our middle rack, where we've just got our pure where we've taken our asexual frags from the Australia stock, and then also our pure Australia crosses. They should bleach and die when they go into the Singapore maximum temperature. All of our Singapore stock should be fine in the maximum Australia temperature, and also that little bit higher in their maximum temperature. But then we also want to discover whether we can create hybridization vigor and make them go even higher through these various genetic combinations, yeah? And we need to grow them out for about 6 months, because the plan is, I'll flip it back around now. The plan is we need the corals up to a suitable size. So if I pull out, so here we've got a, let me get that. So here we've just got a little Meliopora on a nubbin there. With these, we need them of enough size, because ultimately what we'll do is we're going to scrape them off these plugs. They'll be fixed in liquid nitrogen. And then what we're interested in is understanding the metabolomics, the metabolites within all of these pairwise crosses. So the idea behind that is you have your genomics, the genome that makes you. That then leads on to what proteins grow inside your body or are produced inside your body. And that changes all the time with your sleeping, with your stress, you're happy, all that sort of stuff. And then as the proteins are broken down, they produce metabolites. And so the study of metabolomics is the study of metabolites. So we're trying to identify whether there are specific metabolites that are associated with resilience and non-resilience. That is the goal of that study. Now, it's an immensely ambitious plan, I have to say, because an awful lot can go wrong in that time. You know, spawning, settling, you know, and rearing those out are some of the real challenges for sure. To try and maximize the survivorship of the spat, one of the things we worked on last year was looking at this concept of co-culturing. So creating, you know, settling baby urchins and putting baby urchins with baby corals, basically. So they could work around the coral without damaging it and increase the survivorship. So, and that worked beautifully, worked really, really well. That paper is going to, hopefully, I'm trying to finish it in the next couple of weeks. And again, we're going to publish that in open source paper, so anyone can pick this up and see the methodology. But this is now where we move forward. We know that to improve the survivorship, we need to make sure we co-culture. So I'm going to flip the camera back around. So starting a couple of months ago, we started spawning sea urchins. So you can see here Mespilia globulus. This one's about 2 months old, post-settlement. They're at various sizes. Can you make these out? These tiny little dots there. There's another one. There's some here. We've actually got absolutely hundreds. When you start getting your eyes in, they're all over that bowl floating there. We've got some there. And so for this last batch, we've probably got about 1,000 urchins, and they range from, you know, this sort of size, which is a size of my little finger, tip of my finger there, up to something about this kind of size, you know, a little bit under a dime, I suppose, that kind of size. So this is all part of the prep of getting ready for this system to spawn in November. So we've been growing all these urchins out and working with that. Another thing, these are some more urchins we spawned about 6 months ago. So they're Mespilia globulus again, a bit bigger. What we've been working on as well is starting to look at this guy, the Tripneustes crotilla. I'm now going to walk you through some of that. So we've got a big bunch of Tripneustes here. They're just munching away on the caulerpa that's been put in. So these were taken out and spawned on Monday. So we're Wednesday now. Say hello, Michelle. And this is where we do the spawning and the rearing. So we basically use the 20-litre, this is our little cupboard under the stairs. So can you actually make out what that is? Literally, there's our stairs, and we build a cupboard and a room. And this is where we do all our little experiment with the urchins. So We've got some microalgal conchas going there. And then in this big cone are the embryos developing from those Trypnoces gratilla. So we spawned them on Monday. They're now just finishing what's called embryogenesis, and they're going into the echina pluteus stage. If I just take you downstairs, took some pictures of these the other day, and we can sort of talk through some of the development, and I'll send you a few things. So what we're seeing there is that this is just after fertilization, and we've got 4 cells dividing right there, and we've been documenting the different embryo stages as we've been going along, basically. Yeah, so then where we end up, those urchins that were spawned on Monday, these are just lots of photos of the different embryo stages. So we have 2 cells, 4 cells, and what we're at now is what's called the echina pluteus stage. So this is the first stage of, they'll start feeding in the next day or 2, if I can zoom in on that. So now we can see this is the gut just starting to form, and then you have the first 2 arms starting to come out of the pluteus stage. So they are free swimming at this stage. They're zipping around. They're going to remain planktonic for about 25 days with this species. I think I've got some other pictures as well, just showing you. So this is the first time we've done Trypnoces. It looks like we've got some weird. So Skip Mo has been giving us quite a lot of advice on this. This is a new. It's sort of an in-between stage of the larvae and the juvenile. So these are metamorphosed, but not fully. So we can start seeing the little tube feet just up there. This is something called the pedicellarius. This is the little biting organ of the urchin. But they're not metamorphosed properly. Now, we don't know whether that's something we've done from a culturing point of view. We're just going to have to see how this pans out. There are papers that talk about this. They call it the echina porculus because it looks like a little pig. And this needs to now go through the next sort of stage to come into a juvenile form. More often than not, they go straight from a larvae into the juvenile form. This seems to have this sort of strange in-between phase. And these were spawned, when did we do that? Might have been just before Machna. And we're using a Martin Moe design here. So we've got a chrysal, but the flat back of a chrysal. So one side is flat, and then we have the curved side. And then the blue airline there is what he calls the air wand. And this is on a repeater. So the air pump goes on for 4 seconds, turns off for 30 seconds. And the idea is it keeps them in suspension, but doesn't smash them up too much. So this is going to go on in a minute, and you'll see there we go. And so there's just a little, creates an air bubble curtain, which creates that circular motion, keeps it in suspension, but doesn't damage them too much. And so that a kind of porculus, that in-between stage, that came off the base of this chrysal literally yesterday. So I'm not going to be able to really, the camera definitely won't pick this up. There's probably a few hundred larvae still in suspension, but the majority over the last few days have been settling out. And we just got a little bit of a water flow going into it there. And then we have a 120 micron mesh on there. And then just got a dosing pump, and that is the microalgae. So we have Rhodomonas, Isochrysis, and Ketoceras, the microalgae, and that's just getting dosed in at the top about 23 times a day, just so there's this constant phytoplankton food source for the larvae. And that's really the process of getting the urchins ready for the coral spawn.
So just to summarize here then, is you have a couple of different urchin species that you're going to try out, and you're going to put these juvenile urchins in with the coral spawn to eat the algae, and see if that increases the survival rate of after settlement of the embryotic coral. Gotcha.
We've already done that experiment with Misphilia globulus, the tuxedo urchin, and that works really well. So we want to rerun that experiment with Tripmuses gratilla, the collector urchin, and then we also want to work with Diadema, Diadema setosum. We can't get the Caribbean Diadema in the UK, so we're working with the Indo-Pacific version. And again, the idea is that, you know, we can work on some principles and share that with the likes of Kerry at the Center for Conservation. She's developing her own techniques as well, and we're sharing these ideas to or to maximize the amount of coral production, in essence. So in our case, we're interested in supporting Kerry through the restoration work, but also it provides the material for our experimental analysis.
Very cool. And then in conjunction with that experiment, you're also starting the you're investigating the possibility of genetically hardening species by geographical crossbreeding to withstand higher water temperatures.
Yeah, the idea is we're never going to put anything out in the wild. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose is to try and identify which the metabolite markers, and if we create such a extreme situation, does it make it easier to flag up those metabolites? I have to say we're completely speculating here because we don't know. You know, there's an element of just pure discovery work going on, and maybe there's no picture at all. But that's the goal, yeah.
Yep. Very cool. All right. Well, I'll let you get back to it. Thank you very much for updating me and all of us on what you're up to, and good luck with everything. I'll check in with you in a couple weeks.
That's great. Cheers, man.